Welcome back, everybody, to the BRUBBLE podcast, a podcast examining, voice and perspectives from in and around the Brussels bubble. And today we're doing one of our, traditional, fun, deep dive episodes, of which I've done more than normal episodes lately. But I think it just speaks about my state of mind.
We're just having so much fun.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah. And speaking of the other fun voice here beside me, it's my friend Dan. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm very good, Simon. How are things?
Good. Yeah. Life is going along. Busy as always with work, but.
Yeah, it is September when we're recording this in Brussels, and always a hectic month here. But it's nice weather at the moment. It's kind of the city is cooperating, and still a good vibe around. We haven't reached a bleak winter yet.
Yeah, but we'll see how it goes.
It'll come.
It'll come. Yeah. You know what else will come? Justice. And that's what this podcast is about.
That's a masterful segue, Simon.
Yes. So what we've done here is we've gathered a ton of European scandals. And before you go say, hey, my favorite 18th century king abdicating is missing, these are modern political scandals, meaning that they happened in my living memory, so in the last 10 to 15 years, and your living memory, I assume.
We're a similar age, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, you don't have the Profumo scandal here?
I guess I missed that one. And for the most part, they are ones which are more quirky than just some guy stealing money. Yeah.
And nothing. We try to steer clear of kind of really heinous ones as well.
Right.
We're trying to keep the tone relatively light. So there's. We're trying to avoid the more serious crimes.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, I think so too. And just in case anybody who is named in this podcast sees this recording that we have, and if you want to see the recording, watch us on YouTube. If you want to listen Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. But in case you do see this is simply what's the best way to legally cover my ass here.
We will try our best to speak in legal realities. So certain people have been convicted of things in this list of scandals. In other cases, they're allegations.
Yes.
Or, still pending cases. Qatargate. And look, we'll try our best to speak carefully and not defame anybody. But everything I want to say is in the public record. Some cursory Wikipedia searches, political articles, etc. would reveal these to you. And we're just going to try and put our own fun spin on them. If you are watching and you're one of these politicians, feel free to come on, give your side of the story. We'd love the exposure.
Depends on the politician. There's some of be more open to than others.
Actually, we will give a ranking what you want each politician to come on.
Depending on which tier you end up in, it depends on how welcome you are.
Yes, the tier. Yeah, so we're not doing the brackets this time.
Yes. Do you want to explain how the tier list works?
I think most of you have seen a tier list on YouTube at some point. And for those listening on Spotify, I think you also know what a tier list is. Instead of the brackets, March Madness style, we're going to rank them. So we've got 6 categories. S tier, obviously the supreme, the best of the best. And then A, B, C, D, and F as the first 5 letters of the alphabet, of course.
Yes, I know my my spellings.
And, the criteria, I guess,
we'll make it up as we go.
Yeah, again, we want kind of more fun ones, maybe severity of consequences, did the law change or something afterwards as well? How high up in the political scene are we talking? Are we talking heads of state, heads of government, or just random MEPs, for example? So the magnitude and stuff, we'll decide as we go.
An F tier I will reserve for things that are not a scandal.
Yes,
or just really terrible scandals.
Storms in a teacup, I would say.
That's an expression I haven't heard in a few ages.
There's a couple that I definitely think are worthy of that status, that at the time seemed huge or were made into something big, but in reality, it was just a load of hot air. Yeah.
So before we drag on this intro too long, we will ask you the perennial question to start. What makes a good scandal?
You can draw it on a t-shirt. No, wait, that was the flags. That was that
one, I was wondering where you're going with this one.
Good scandal. Well, I think the bigger the name, the better.
Right. The bigger the fall.
Yeah. There has to be name recognition, and I think just stealing money is a bit just kind of boring, or cooking the books. Something a little bit more out there is always enjoyable. And I think too, sometimes you need like a crazy story as well. Like even like a politician who comes up with an even crazier excuse to go on top of the crazy lie, or like they lie about what they knew and then they have to like retract the lie and then say they actually knew what was going on. And like twists and turns also help.
Yeah. No, I would say that it needs to capture the attention of like a foreign audience.
Yes.
Because it can't be a scandal that just impacts the domestic people, I think. I think it really needs to speak to others looking in and being like, what the hell is going on there? That's kind of what I view a good scandal being.
Yeah, like all of a sudden, like you have to learn who, like, you know, the finance minister of Iceland is or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. Like I had to learn all about Antonio Costa's weird resignation thing, which was annoying. By the way, 8 to 16 pages of notes here. So
we'll keep it under never, guys, maybe. Well, at least with this setup, we don't have to go through each one multiple times.
Yes.
We just do each scandal once, rank them, and then move on to the next one. So I think, we have like 30 maybe?
A little more.
A little more.
We'll see how far we get.
Just because you're special, you know? Yeah.
Anyways, let's get into it. Let's start off. The first one, we'll go alphabetically for this list I created. It's the Benalla Affair.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the Benalla Affair?
Yes. Again, I did my own little bit of research.
Yeah.
I didn't have all the notes because I don't like to show off. But he was Emmanuel Macron's like chief of security.
He was
like deputy chief of staff. He was like a senior person.
Yes, exactly.
In Macron's team, in his entourage, and the main detail is that like he beat up a protester, right?
That's part of it.
That's part of it. Yeah. That he kind of disguised himself like to beat up a protester.
So what he did is, during the May Day protests of 2018, he went out and performed his civic duty to tackle the delinquents. His words, not mine. But what really pissed people off was the fact that he just didn't go and do it. He went wearing a police helmet.
That was it.
Yeah. So then it was being really perceived by the French public as the prime minister's bodyguards. Apparently, there's a whole lineage of this happening. Of presidents and prime ministers in France using their personal staff, to get away with above the law things, and then using that to again be above the law and beat up some innocent or delinquent or whatever they called it.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm gonna say that word a lot today. Yeah. Okay. So that was part of it. What are the other parts then?
That was it basically.
Okay.
And Macron made a really small or big deal about not wanting to do much to put repercussions in place. So that kind of just kept the scandal going on. Then the opposition heard about it, and then the opposition tried to vote of no confidence to dissolve the thing, which is kind of a big escalation from just a guy beating up a protester.
Which is terrible, of course. But in terms of like the political ramifications, it just shows how you deal with a scandal. Can create the scandal rather than the situation itself.
Right. And we had a similar kind of thing even a while back, a year ago or so. I didn't put it on the list where Macron made some remarks or something at like Sciences Po about, I think, Jewish or Israeli question or something like that, and it just kept blowing out of proportion just because he refused to put a strong stance on it.
Yeah,
but anyways, that's a different one.
But and trying to minimize it, you can have the opposite effect. And and this one obviously, it was a bit of a mad situation. And in terms of ranking,
to give you some influence on the ranking.
Okay, here we go.
Jean-Luc Mélenchon, I think I pronounced that correctly. Mélenchon, thank you. Yeah. He called it. He was in opposition, in the opposition
I'm
at the
well
time.
aware of who he is.
He called it a scandal at the level of Watergate.
JLM, man, you need to. They call you a firebrand for a reason, but I think you need to calm down a little bit there.
I don't think this one's super. No, it didn't have any severe consequences.
I guess French politics is quite stable now as well. So
I think there's many more fun French ones coming up.
Yeah. France has had a few. That is true. Like obviously, again, being a protester, trying to disguise yourself as a policeman, bad. I would say. In terms of ramifications, it seems like it was escalated to a certain level. Just kind of get at Macron. So where would you say, like C or D maybe?
I would settle for C for now. I think we can move these on as we go along.
That's true.
Because I think it's not too terrible, but I think it did show a bit that Macron's staff is not above the law, which is something that a lot of other people levied at different presidents of France, and we'll see that where they kind of abuse some of their powers.
Okay.
Maybe it was a good sentiment for Macron.
Okay. So let's see. On to the next one.
A big one. Berlesconi and Rubygate, the only man who has, I think, a longer Wikipedia article of his scandals than of his actual profile. But
yeah, you know, it was inevitable. I think anyone listening or watching, you knew that Silvio would pop up at some point. Rubygate doesn't ring a bell, but maybe if you describe what it actually was.
I thought this was the bigger one, because the other ones were just basically corruption and, you know, corrupt business dealings.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
This one was actually one which I was personally repulsed at. So in what was the year? 2010. He was in power, in office. Mm-hmm. There was this young Moroccan woman named Karima al-Moharari, who went by Ruby the Heart Stealer. She was 17 years old at the time and was, you know, allegedly having an affair, well, not an affair, but, you know, sleeping with Berlusconi during the time.
Okay.
So randomly in 2010, she was arrested, accused of stealing 3,000 euros and put in jail. And then she made a nice phone call to her old buddy Berlusconi to get her out of jail. And this kicked off the whole event. Okay. Berlusconi, who was in Paris at the time, he called the police station Milan like 20 times or something, trying to convince them that she was the niece of the Egyptian prime president at the time, and this would cause a political scandal if she wasn't released. But
he was like, okay, I can't say Morocco. I did another country in that area. Egypt is a good one, right?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So eventually, people started putting the pieces together, because I think there was some record of this. And in 2011, he was placed on a criminal investigation for having sex with an underage person, as well as abuse of powers of office. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, no, I do remember this one. Just the title of Rubygate. For some reason, I thought it was something to do with like an actual ruby.
Oh, that would have been fun.
I was going to like Hollywood on it, you know, like a heist movie. Like he stole a ruby, like Putin stealing the Super Bowl ring from Robert Kraft, you know. Yeah. He stole a ruby on a state trip. Okay, no, it was just it was the teenager sleeping with him. Yeah.
But that's still pretty disgusting. And and he's had a pattern of this, and there are allegedly also other victims which refuse to, you know, cooperate to go against cooperate the trial. Allegedly, again. I think he died, didn't he, Berlusconi? So
he is dead, yes. I think he died
although
last
his
year.
estate might be... anyways.
The Berlusconi family. My first apartment in Brussels, first house I lived in, the landlord claimed that there's a picture of Berlusconi on the stairs.
Okay.
In the house with like a bunch of young women. I haven't seen this photo. But again, allegedly, there's a photo of Berlusconi in this house with a bevy of young women. I don't know why the landlord told me this, but if anyone has that photo, feel free to send me, because I'd be curious.
I would not want to see Berlusconi with a harem of young women.
Okay, yeah. It's not for that reason. I'm just like, is it real or not? Was my landlord telling the truth? Yeah, because he said a lot of stuff.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and what was the outcome?
He was indicted February 2011, found guilty June 24th, 2013. I think he was still in office at the time. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison, was banned from office for life, successfully appealed in 2014, and all charges were dropped.
There we go. We're going to hear a lot of that in this podcast, I think.
I was also surprised at how little consequences there were. So some other fun facts of Berlusconi's multiple scandals. Can you guess how many times he's appeared in court?
I'm going to say 14.
That's less than the amount of court cases he's had.
Okay. Yeah.
Try again.
35.
Nope. He alleged in 2009, so even before this scandal happened, he had spent over 200 million euros on legal fees. Wow. Across 2,500 court appearances in 106 different trials.
So he had physically gone to court for 106 trials. Wow.
On 2,500 different occasions.
How did he even have time to govern the country?
Yeah, well, I mean, this was before he was elected.
Well, he was also like a CEO. He ran like a media company.
Yeah, and
he was a big
I also didn't realize he was like a multi-billionaire.
Of course.
So I guess that also, doesn't hurt. He was only ever found guilty once. And that's for
200 million euros in legal fees gets you.
And that's for tax evasion, and was sentenced to, and he was pardoned down to 1 year to be served at house arrest or community service due to his age.
Community service, okay. He was delivering meals to the elderly, i.e. himself. Yeah.
So as we contemplate his ranking, I'll share with you a fun quote by Berlusconi. I don't have these for all of these. I realize I'm setting a precedent.
Yeah.
He called himself the most persecuted man in the entire history of the world.
Trump learned a lot from Berlusconi.
Yeah.
This is what I'm realizing. Yeah.
Same.
In terms of literal like prosecutions, he might be the most prosecuted man.
Yeah. I think maybe this is a mistranslation.
Exactly. It's like, I am statistically the most prosecuted man in history. Like, yeah, actually, you could be.
I think there's some truth to that.
There's a lot of petty criminals who are like, wow, triple digits.
But I also don't put it past him to actually go the literal meaning of persecution.
Yeah. Okay. So ranking, he's up there. He is up there. He's one of the kings of corruption.
I honestly think you could push him all the way up there, because even like his reign really.
Yeah.
It was a real blemish on the record of Italy too, because I even remember around that time he was a bit of a laughing matter, a joke amongst anybody who was not
Single Obama had a great tan, all that kind of
thing.
Yeah. Just kind of
There's a whole section on like weird quotes by him. Also, weird quotes I'm not considering a scandal. I'm just considering that a personality. So, but yeah,
that's just my vibe.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we saying S then?
I think so.
Okay,
S for Sylvia.
S.
We can move him around if need be, but
and may he rest in hell.
Yeah. Rest in persecution.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the Boehmermann Affair.
Yes, Jan Boehmermann. Yeah.
Yes, also known as Erdogate. That's
good. I don't like it. Okay, there. Well, I guess the G in Erdogan isn't really.
Nah, it's not pronounced enough.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, this one I do remember. This was what, 2016.
Yep.
I want to say. Yeah.
Good memory.
And Jan Boehmermann, kind of like a Jon Stewart, kind of Trevor Noah character, like a satirist, comedian who had a show in Germany. Maybe still does, but at the time. He had a show and he wrote a poem about Recep Erdogan, president of Turkey, and said a lot of defamatory things, all in the name of satire, about the president's sexual proclivities, which were all just made up like bullshit. Like, to be clear, it was just him saying those controversial things.
It wasn't only sexual proclivities though. It was also criticizing strongly his human rights record.
Oh, true, yeah.
So there's
with Kurdish people and that kind of thing.
Yeah, there was a real strong focus on that too. I found this great FT article from the time where it just had a picture of Boehmermann, and the title was like, oh, his poem or whatever, and the caption was just it mentioned goats.
There we go. Yeah, I think the deputy prime minister of Turkey called it like a crime against humanity.
Yeah,
and Angela Merkel was under pressure then to like investigate, and there was some like obscure German law.
Yeah,
but insulting heads of state. Yeah,
to get into it, kind of.
Yeah,
Erdogan was so annoyed at this kind of slander towards him, and it started actually with a music video he made. That he started to the German ambassador to Turkey got summoned to have like a word about this being like, hey, you can't have Germans do that towards Erdogan, which is also a bit of an overstep I find, but regardless, once Boehmermann heard of that, he wrote that poem and proudly performed it on TV, which I think is a pretty badass thing to do.
That's not bad.
But then Erdogan responded by citing this obscure 19th century German law, which you stated which did not allow criticism of any other foreign heads of state. And then this ignited a debate in Germany, because apparently there's freedom of speech, but there's also something called abusive criticism, and that is not protected freedom of speech.
So kind of taking it too far.
Yes. Yeah. And because at that time, Erdogan was quite a valuable partner to Europe due to the migration crisis and all that kind of stuff, Merkel actually allowed for there to be a case opened against Boehmermann. Yeah. And that case actually, persisted for like 6 months or so until it was dropped silently back in the background. So,
okay, interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that he didn't actually, see any consequences.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, but it does kind of show also the stranglehold on Merkel. Like, I think it's almost, I don't know if it's, I would say it's a bit of weak leadership at that point, where you allow yourself to get bullied about by a partner like Turkey.
Of course, and it's an internal matter. I think like it just showed the migration crisis. It kind of created all these weird like ripple effects. As well around Europe. And and the law itself got abolished afterwards.
Did it?
As an outcome of the case, they realized this law is ridiculous. So, Boehmermann, I feel like it was very, very spoken about, so it is up there.
How up there? Should we place it a B for Boehmermann?
B for Boehmermann.
I think it's I think it's apt.
Yeah. Okay, so next one.
Next one, and we'll try go through it a little quicker.
Yeah.
The Bogus. Oh, this is gonna twist my tongue. The Bogus Garda breath test scandal. Maybe you want to take this in your native tongue.
Exactly. Yeah. Bogus Garda breath test. So Garda Síochána is the name for the police force in Ireland, and so this was not a political scandal per se, but still a kind of crazy one, where it turned out that like 1 million breath tests for drivers had been falsified. So that they discovered this like mismatch in the system between like the number of breath tests that were recorded and those that actually took place. So about 1 million actually happened, and about 1 million were falsified because the police in Ireland wanted to, show that they were doing a really good job, like tackling drink driving and clamping down on this scourge. And again, not really many consequences faced for this one.
Here's an observation I had about this one, which is not related to the scandal at all.
Go ahead.
Why do people from the Isles, if I can refer to them like that, call it drink driving, whereas in people from the bigger landmass call it drunk driving?
It's a good question, actually. I hadn't considered that before. Yeah.
Because it's always like such a you're saying that wrong in my head.
Yeah, and you're saying it wrong with drunk driving. So.
Anyways, I almost cut this one off the list because I didn't think it had enough political consequences. It's a bit, ridiculous that this even happened.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a bit silly. And the police force in Ireland hasn't had a great few years. So there are other related scandals that we aren't mentioning. But I agree, this is kind of weak. We have another scandal coming up later, which is maybe a bit better from Ireland. But this could even be an F1, to be honest.
Yeah. Let's put in D for now. I think we can demote it if need be.
That's fine. We have other crap ones coming up too. Yeah.
Now we have a good one coming up. One of my favorite ones, the Bulletin Board Affair.
This is the first one I wasn't aware of.
It was a bit of a sub note on where I discovered it, but I think it's actually quite influential. Okay. So, during Fico's first term in Slovakia, 2006-2010, there was a tender that went out for €120 million contract for some construction work.
Yeah.
So, guess where this tender was located?
I'm going to say it was in Fico's hometown.
No, it was located. The tender for the notice for applying to it. There was only a single notice posted. It was pinned to a bulletin board in the middle of a hallway of the public service building. And the only bidder got the contract.
That's good. That's analog, None of these, portals online and 3-month deadline. No, this is the old school way of doing it.
But some intern must have walked by and glanced at the bulletin board and been like, "Oh, the normal tender's €120 million."
Good Will Hunting would have been a very different movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. True. Anyways, this caused quite the uproar. It's not very competitive, nor it reeks of corruption, so to say.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. It depends what corridor it's in as well.
So the contract was eventually discovered, and it was terminated in 2009 due to these issues. And it actually resulted in the two construction ministers at the time, Marian Januvkic and Igor Stefanu. They became the first ministers in Slovakia to go to jail for corruption in 2018.
Okay.
And they
2018, that took a long time. Yeah.
Well, that's also what I learned. Court trials take a long time.
Yeah, with all the appeals and everything that happens, like in certain countries, they really drag
But they actually got a good sentence out of this. 11 and 9 years, respectively.
Okay. That actually is surprising, yeah. Well, there we go.
I mean, it was 120 million euros.
That's a lot of money.
For a piece of paper on a bulletin board.
It's a lot of euros, to be fair. Yeah. Well, okay, Okay, that's a pretty good one I wasn't aware of. And actual consequences.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling B.
I would also put a B. That was also was leaning towards.
Because I think in terms of notoriety, maybe because it was a little bit before my time, I was still 13, 14 when that happened. So maybe that's why I didn't hear about it. But yeah.
I don't think many people heard about it.
Exactly,
it sounds like something which is very local, or like something that nobody needs. Like if I saw this headline in Politico, like, oh, you know, this guy convicted in corruption in Slovakia, I wouldn't assume it was 120 million euros in such a ridiculous way.
The figure is eye-grabbing, eye-catching for sure, but I think B's fair.
Yeah.
So what's next on the list here?
Rutte and his child welfare benefits scandal of 2021.
Of course, yeah. Well, you're the Dutchies, so you can take it away.
Yeah, I mean, in the Netherlands, the way child welfare credits work is that there's an automatic formula in place which kind of calculates how much benefits you get reimbursed by the government. And it turns out there was some systemic bias in the algorithm, which went back to like when it was first implemented in like 2004, 2005. So a lot of people who were, who were having dual nationalities, who were ethnic minorities, were getting disproportionately less reimbursement than, the majority of the population. Anyways, this boiled up, and eventually it blew up. Found that the government was guilty, and Mark Rutte pulled the plug on the cabinet and resigned his third government in 2021 during the midst of lockdown.
And he stayed Prime Minister for another 3 years.
Yes, which I was gonna say, I get people at the time were like, he's good for him to resign,
Yeah.
If something like this happens, you are definitely accountable, because this even went back to his days as culture minister, because he should have overseen this. But the ridiculous thing is, he resigned 2 months before his tenure was supposed to end in the first place. And he stayed caretaker prime minister until the election, which he then did pretty well and formed coalition government.
Yeah.
I think a year or two later with him at the head again.
That's the thing. Yeah, he just he just kind of rolled through that. But it is a very interesting case. Like I think when people talk about like AI and algorithms now, like this is like pointed to as an example of how there's been a lot of folks who are like, oh, AI can design bioweapons, or AI robots like Skynet or whatever. But this is like the real world harms that AI is doing in the present day that we need to focus on more, and how do we address these and how do we stop these from happening.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it did cause quite a wake up, and I hope other governments kind of looked at their own systems. Yeah. But in terms of how Rutte handled the scandal, what do you think?
Well, I think like he kind of did everything that you're supposed to do, but it just feels a bit hollow in the end, because it's like, it was 2 months before the term was due to finish, and then he just ended up winning the election and being prime minister for another couple of years, and
now NATO's second.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's kind of like he kind of rolled through it. I don't know, like any of the ministers involved, like were they negatively affected?
I didn't take too close of a look because the whole cabinet resigned at once, and then that basically turned the government off until the next election cycle. But I'm sure some people faced a few repercussions, but I think it was also such a long bureaucratic process to get to the point where it exploded in this way that people had probably already been getting resigned and fired in the
and a lot of passing the buck, I imagine, with so many like
it's a very
about.
If Rutte was going to have any scandal, this would have been it. I feel like
he's not a man. He's not a man for like a Berlesconi type like Piggate situation.
Exactly.
No.
He's not going to be biking off to his mysterious lover. I hope maybe it is, but
we will see something like this later. Don't worry. But also like it was terrible. Like this kind of systemic racism being reflected within the algorithm and all these kind of innocent people being affected or kind of being treated like almost like criminals. I think like in terms of real world impact, like actually very, very serious. It's a bit depressing that like it didn't really lead to much consequence, and it should be taken as a warning to all of us about like when we talk about AI and like AI is going to like make government more efficient and public services and bureaucracy is over, paperwork is over, and it's like, we still need to watch these systems. Yeah. They're not neutral. They're not just going to like, they're not inherently good. They're as good as the people that designed them.
Thank you. Well, anyways, child welfare benefits, I wouldn't go higher than a C, just how boring of a scandal it is.
Yeah, C is fine. Yeah, obviously, again, the negative impacts on people were terrible.
I mean, the government resigned too.
And the government resigned, but we'll say like, there are kind of crazier scandals coming up. And
speaking of crazier scandals,
here we go.
Costa's resignation.
Oh my God!
Antonio Costa.
Not Antonio Costa.
Do you know why he resigned?
So if I remember correctly,
I didn't actually. I just knew he resigned, and I never heard anything else of it. I was like, this is stupid.
And now he's European Council president. Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. But anyways, go on.
It's just like a year ago, a little less than a year ago.
Yeah, November.
And he was being spoken about as like, the next president of the European Council. Like people are kind of like, he's like a very popular prime minister in Portugal and like one of the few like socialist names out there who's like maintained popularity and stuff and resisting the right-wing wave, we'll say. But then the public prosecutor started investigating licenses that were given to certain projects. So there was like a couple of mines, there was like a data center, and that they were obtained in kind of improper ways, and that money changed hands with people. And his chief of staff was implicated, if I remember correctly, and a couple of government ministers too. And he kind of got mixed up in it. But even now, today, it's kind of unclear if he actually knew anything. It seems more like, just as the figurehead, or as the head of government, like, it kind of buck stopped with him, so he had to resign. But I don't think he personally did anything wrong.
I have an opinion on this, the more I read about it.
Okay.
And I've decided for my legal benefit, I'm not going to say it.
Make of that what you will.
Exactly.
But there was one farcical moment where his economy minister was Antonio Costa Silva.
Right.
And the public prosecutor believed that his name, the prime minister's name, was mentioned in a recording of a conversation. But they were actually talking about the economy minister. So one of the pieces of evidence against the prime minister, they actually weren't even talking about him. They were talking about another minister who had basically the same name. So that was a farcical moment in the investigation.
Portuguese.
And Costa, like he's now going to be council president. He's still a very popular politician. So it seems like he's kind of glided through this whole ordeal.
You got most of the details correct.
Yeah.
It was the thing that blew this one over. There were other like little side deals too. Was the 3.5 billion euro investment into a renewable data center, which was going into Portugal and would have been the largest investment in that country in like 30 years.
Right.
So what happened there is that the lobbyists for that, investing company wanted to seek more favorable conditions, and they were accused of doing some lobbying that was too hard, And in that thing that was mixed up were a bunch of people who were apparently given instructions or were given indications they should make this process as smooth as possible considering the opportunity for Portugal. And that included the best man in Antonio Costa's wedding.
Yeah, okay.
And then I thought that was a bit of a close connection for that guy to get caught up in it.
Too close to home.
Yeah,
okay,
but the chief of staff was found with 75,000 euros in cash in his apartment, which is typically a sign that either you're really good at saving or...
you're 85 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
We will hear more later about cash stuffed into random places.
True.
Yeah.
Just because this was so forgotten, I feel like it's a D tier. Nobody I feel like if I could go to a random person in Brussels, they would not give a concise of the summary as you just did to me.
Yeah, because I read Wikipedia like 2 hours ago.
Exactly. And I had I just knew he resigned, and I knew he himself was like almost surprised he had to resign. Like his whole resignation thing was a bit absurd. Not absurd, but a bit. And
then the president was like eating an ice cream while they were negotiating the resignation. That's a good clip. We can find that one. D is fine. I'm fine with that.
We'll put it in there.
I'm gonna let you just not agree with whatever.
Oh, there we go. That's how democracy works.
D for democracy.
You should see how much money is in his closet. Anyways, Hungarian EU funded bridges and infrastructure as a bucket category.
Love this. Yeah. I was told this about this by a good Hungarian friend of mine, and some of the pictures are magnificent. After this podcast, make sure you go look it up because there are some incredible projects that got EU money.
I wouldn't be laughing as an EU taxpayer,
No, you're right, actually.
This is actually, the more I looked at it, I was like, my tax dollars are going towards
your tax euros.
Yeah, apologies. But
you're European, come on.
Yes. But yeah, it's crazy. Anyways, the real figurehead of all of this is the treetop canopy walkway.
The canopy walkway, man. It's the canopy walkway, which seems to have put on like a nuclear testing site. It's so empty.
Well, the funny thing about it is, so it's in mayor in Eastern Hungary applied for this grant in 2021 for 175,000 euros to build this thing. The village of near Mortofulsa. It's this huge. Anyways, So though they got the land, it originally had trees, but the mayor decided to cut them off and sell them for a profit before the walkway got put in.
Yeah,
which is it's so ridiculous.
It is pretty ridiculous.
But apparently they can't be I read somewhere, and I think this is correct, so do fact check me if I'm wrong, but in Hungary, you can't be investigated for misuse of EU funds unless the local judiciary approves of that investigation. So these guys kind of abusing it are really not really able to be held in contempt of the law by the European powers giving this out, which is why there's so much...
There's a middleman there that's stopping it,
So it's really kind of a messed up system.
That is messed up, yeah.
So before we decide the ranking of this one funny thing, the same mayor who submitted this grant request for this, canopy walkway, he also submitted a bunch of other requests, including one for €126,000 grant for a tree planting program.
He's playing both sides, so he wins either way. It's genius.
Exactly. Where should we put this one? I think it's ongoing as a scandal, is a bit. Like, as a European citizen, the fact that these aren't being properly addressed is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
and it's infuriating.
Too. Yeah, it's definitely an issue. I'm feeling B.
Yeah, I was contemplating A tier.
Because it's kind of low, like, it's not like prime minister is involved or anything like that. Like, it is like more like local level corruption.
The prime minister's also. We'll get to it. There's one more in here Anyway, speaking about, lavish infrastructure, it's the garden shed affair from Luxembourg.
This I don't know, but Lux are very small, so I presume the garden shed is like the name of the parliament or something. Yeah.
Oh no, it's a garden shed. It refers to an actual garden shed.
The garden shed refers to the garden shed in this case.
So in 2019, the mayor of Differendunge, Roberto Traversoni, a proud Luxembourger, I assume, he decided to upgrade his shed. So first off, he did not submit a proper planning permit. It was located in a nature zone, so just didn't submit it. And then he also used the commune's construction department to drop the plans for the renovations.
Yeah, excellent.
And then he also used the local employment initiative to carry out the renovations.
To hire people.
So...
he was creating jobs in the community.
I guess so. Part of me wants to be like, I'm sure there's so many other projects in Luxembourg that needed so much attention. I don't know what's so wrong about one shed being fixed up in the course of an afternoon. But I guess it's a principle of corruption, which they really go against.
Yeah, it's pretty cut and dry. But yeah, like Luxembourg, are they going to build like another 40 kilometers of tram tracks? Like, they're basically done with their infrastructure. Like, it's all good.
I don't know, man. The train connection to Luxembourg is not the best for Brussels.
Yeah, is that Luxembourg's fault or is that...
That's true, actually. Anyways, so this actually blew up quite a bit. So this guy resigned in 2022 over the controversy, but it kept cascading upwards because he was part of the Green Party, and the Green Minister of the Environment, she was implicated because she had to sign off on these permits that went out. So this was a whole big thing, and apparently it's still pretty well known in Luxembourg. And Carol Duchenberg, eventually, she also resigned, and she was under investigation for years to find out if there would be legal proceedings opened against her. And this really led to a tearful quote by her, leading one to courtrooms after, the umpteenth amount of court trials, saying, "I don't want this anymore."
Yeah, I can see why. Yeah. Like, it is interesting, it's just like a simple shed renovation reverberating like throughout the country.
But part of me, like, doing this kind of research has made me appreciate anti-corruption measures, because in the many like other countries around the world, maybe not in Europe, maybe elsewhere, something like this is commonplace, right? And it's a really slippery slope. But in a country like Luxembourg, this creates such a scandal that it's, known in the public, zeitgeist, that this really does actually tackle corruption properly. Like, I think these small incidents of, funds being misused, I think it's good that it being blown out of proportion.
Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah, like zero tolerance is better than being like, a little bit of corruption is fine as long as, you're not like hiding bodies like under a bridge or something.
Although I would amend the local laws to allow his shed to be renovated, but beyond that,
Yeah. But no, that is the issue. Yeah, it's like politicians using the state apparatus as if it was like a personal service.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
like the the construction department, like he's just hired them like architects or something. And so Interesting. Yeah, one I wasn't aware of. I think
I wouldn't go.
I would say like C maybe.
I was gonna say I wouldn't go too high, but I still
Yeah.
think it's good to spotlight, and it's much more
Yeah.
sexier than Mark Rutte. So,
Yeah. Good point.
okay, next one. This one of creatively titled "Hardware Store Stress."
Okay, now this one I don't know what you're talking about. So
Have you heard of the member of European Parliament, Robert Roquefort? He was French.
like the cheese.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. No. So was he the one who's stressing the hardware store?
Yes, he was. He was caught in a moment of stress in the hardware store.
Oh. Okay, I think I know what you. Were
So
getting
in
at here.
2016, he was caught masturbating in
There
front
we
of
go.
two teenagers
Yeah.
in a
Oh,
hardware
God.
store outside of Paris. And he claimed it was a moment of stress, and he was really annoyed that he got tackled by, bystanders. And yeah, he pled guilty. He was found, guilty. His sentence was not disclosed because he pled guilty.
Yeah.
And he lost his position to parliamentary group, but he sat out his term.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I mean, it's a
Like,
good salary, I suppose.
Yeah, like we've seen plenty of MEPs do that. Just get kicked out of the group and just hang around like a ghost
Yeah.
in Strasbourg.
It's what I was also thinking is it must be so terrible to be one of the assistants to a guy like this, where you're just doing your job and then the guy just turns out to be a creep, and
Yeah, well,
because that's such a blemish on your record too.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of these assistants are just like afraid to speak out, and it's still an ongoing issue. Like a lot of people have had issues with their MEPs, have filed complaints, and then they're not being addressed.
Like even the bullying scandal, I didn't put any of these on, but there's quite a rampant issue of like bullying within like the parliament itself, where it's really hard to have those checks on the MEPs. So
Yeah, that's it. Like, yeah, it's a very like tight knit team, and for some of the more high profile MEPs too, like you think like they're putting a lot of pressure on their assistants to work like crazy hours and delivering these tasks, and
causes a lot of stress, you could say.
Yeah, it would hypothetically speaking. Okay, yeah, this one I didn't know. This feels kind of like, again, he's clearly a creep, and I'm glad that he got punished for it, but it didn't, that it's not a high level scandal. Like it's probably a D.
I was gonna go C just because it's funny.
C for cock or D for dick? That's the question.
I'll leave this one up to you. You're the expert.
We'll go D. We'll go D for dick.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
again,
his name is
yeah.
Robert, no? Oh no, that's Robert.
Bob.
Bob. Anyways,
You're thinking Richard.
that's the one.
There we go. Yeah.
Sorry. It's late. I've worked all week.
Yeah.
Moving on, the Ibiza Affair. Ibiza.
Ah, yes, the Austrian, this one, was, an interesting one. This is like the first like sting operation, on the list, which are always fun. Like the one that brought down Sam Allardyce as England football manager back in the day. Did they know who actually organised this? Like who?
The sting operation.
Yeah. Who was posing? Because this woman was posing as the niece of an oligarch, a Russian.
Yeah. So
oligarch.
what happened is that a journalist set up the entire thing for several years.
Wow.
And then that's why they had all those hidden cameras. So basically, what happened, for those who are unaware, is that the Austria's former vice chancellor, so Heinz Christian Stark, and Johanna Gudis, who were both the leader of the right-wing Freedom Party and as well as the deputy leader at the time, they were a video emerged in 2017 showing them chilling in Ibiza alongside the supposed niece of a Russian oligarch.
The oligarch was real. The niece was fake.
He was very outraged that he was used in this sense. But And anyways, she she offered on this videotape that she would, in exchange for favorable contracts in like Austria, she would help them, change public opinion to get their party winning in the next election. Yeah,
that was it. Yeah, like she was like, we'll help your party, and then you'll help us, like in government, and the guys involved were seemed pretty happy to go along with the deal.
Yeah, I mean the cocaine on the table apparently didn't hurt, but
they were baking beforehand. That's what it was. Yeah,
that's what they say.
This was huge. This brought down the coalition, right?
Entire government, and it's almost, I don't want to say surprising, but Austria has long been more tolerant, I would say, of Russian, of alleged Russian influence over the past.
Well, you've had like Putin attend a wedding of Austrian politicians, for example.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like, there's been this weird mutual respect, which it doesn't exist in the rest of Europe. Although maybe it's changed now. I'm not going to say anything too crazy.
Well, the Freedom Party are currently polling top in Austria, and this is the party
Let me.
that we're willing to exchange.
And this guy is still a prominent member in the party.
Yeah,
Sebastian
Straka.
Yeah, he's still in there. Heinz Christian Straka. Sorry, Sebastian Kurz was the chancellor who stepped down because of this scandal.
Yeah. And he was like accused of like lying and stuff, right? About what he knew, and there was a whole scandal.
Too young for his role, I would say.
Yeah, that's true. Any politician that age, I'm sorry, I don't care what side of the spectrum you're from. Even though I know it's good to get you representation. I'm a bit suspicious of you. Like, how much life experience do you have, really?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Sometimes I do have that thought. I mean, it's good to have youth represented well, and I think that's really important. But sometimes I'm like,
I wouldn't trust myself to be an MP. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Yeah. I'd be very easily swayed. Yeah. As you can see with Simon's suggestions for the tiers, I'm just like, yeah, do whatever you want. This feels high.
Slips a bill.
This feels high. Like, this is a government collapse.
Yeah.
Sting operation, I think, adds a little bit of intrigue.
And it's also, you can't really say I mean, they accuse the journalists of clipping up the clips, but you just got the full video,
Yeah. I think this is A tier.
I would also
A for
agree.
Austria.
Exactly. Yeah. Apparently, to give you a quote, Gudenes, who said at the meeting with Stark, Starsh, said apparently on the recording to a suspicious Stark, "No, it's not a trap." So you can find that in the
this
transcripts.
This guy's never seen Star Wars.
Yeah,
gotta listen to Aaron Akbar when he's telling you it's a trap.
Heed the
warning.
I would have been so pissed if I was Stark.
I
would have been like, I saw this coming. I knew I was gonna do this. I was gonna do it anyways, probably.
I told you.
But
I told you it was a trap, and you're like, no, it's fine. But I don't have much sympathy for Hans Christian.
True. Well, speaking of sympathy, moving on to some more neo-Nazis. Oh, no, okay, I'm not gonna say that. But moving
Allegedly.
on. Yes, sorry. Well, moving on to a different to
the far right.
They are, according to Vice, they are neo-Nazis. So I'm going to say that. But the Swedish Socialist Democrat Party, the one that isn't Socialist Democrat, but actually neo-Nazis.
Okay.
So that one had a very interesting scandal called the Iron Pipe Scandal in 2010. Have you heard of this one?
This is one of the ones listed didn't know.
Okay, so it's pretty fun. It's not pretty fun, but so it's
interesting.
Let's say that. It caught my attention, is what I would say. So they were three of their prominent figures in that party. So Erik Almqvist, Kent Eckerworth, and Christian Wrestling. So they were out for a night of fun. They were like walking around, being a bit belligerent, getting a bit drunk in town. Ended up near McDonald's. As all good things happen, all good nights. So they got caught in a verbal altercation with comedian Soran Ismaili and like a woman or a few bystanders. And Soran Ismaili was not of Swedish descent, according to these guys. So there were some, slurs and insults thrown around, stuff like that. And then what happened is one of them apparently shoved the woman nearby. And then the crowd got a bit tense around them because, some belligerent guys, slurs, that kind of stuff. So what these guys did is they grabbed a few pipes from a nearby construction site to defend themselves.
Excellent.
And started really posturing around with those.
Good optics.
Yeah.
Good optics,
and if you can see my little thing, these aren't just pipes. These are literal meter-long spears of iron pipes. And they started just posturing, being all cool of them, going around and whatever. Yeah. So, anyways, this was caught on camera.
That's the thing with these modern scandals.
Yeah, I mean 2010, but that's why it's such a blurry footage. But regardless, this was somewhat of a minor scandal. But although, if you know the Swedish Socialist Democrat Party, if I'm saying the name of the party correctly, it's not that big of a surprise. So there weren't a ton of, controversies about it.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought it was just fun with the iron pipes, which turned out to be...
Did anyone get hurt in the end?
Well, feelings, yes, but
I
think physically they didn't beat some guy up, but they were definitely... If I see a bunch of guys yelling slurs and picking up a big iron pipe, I would not be feeling the safest that I should.
That's fair, yeah. Any consequences?
Nope. The one guy's still pretty active in Swedish politics. One left to go to Hungary, where he remains, spouting out his ideals, which tells you all you need to know. Another one disappeared.
For me, like obviously, like screw those guys in general, but
Yeah.
seems like a D to me.
A B? Okay.
A D.
Oh, a D. I was going to put it C-ish, but I'll settle for D. It was less fun when I realized these were just neo-Nazis. Because they were
Threatening
like...
a man of color, yeah. That's
Yeah.
fair.
A bit more night. Anyways.
Anyway, let's go on to a fun one.
Oh, according to my Spanish colleagues, this one is not very fun. Juan Carlos. And his flee from
Yeah.
Spain.
His exile.
Yeah, self-imposed exile.
Self-imposed exile, yeah. Juan Carlos I, he was the king, transition to democracy. A pretty popular guy, by all accounts. You know, like I think people are expecting him to be more conservative after Franco's death, but he helped facilitate the transition to democracy.
Yep.
And, was kind of seen as like, you know, a good monarch in general. But then we had some financial impropriety.
Yeah, involving Saudi Arabia. Allegedly. I don't know if it's proven in court or not, but what happened is that, you know, a Spanish company got a €7 billion rail contract in between two cities in Saudi Arabia. And apparently Juan Carlos helped facilitate that and received a nice sum of allegedly €100 million.
Kicked back in his direction, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
which ended up in his Swiss bank accounts, which got both Spain and Swiss authorities scrutinizing his dealings pretty closely.
€100 million is
It's quite a
a
bit.
decent chunk of change, yeah.
If that came by you and you were Juan Carlos, how tempted would you be?
I'll be like, yeah, gracias. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say anything. Yeah, I would definitely, out of, you know, respect for institutions, it's not something that should happen.
And but this one came to light like after he abdicated, right? This was
Yes, there was a lot of pressures going on around the time of his abdication because there were several other financial indiscretions, floating around. So in 2014, he decided to let his son have a go at it.
Yeah.
He resigned, and then by the time this was all really gathering traction, he was like, goodbye, and moved to the UAE, where all good people end.
Him and all his influencer friends, they were yeah.
And every time he comes back to Spain, which is like once a year to visit some family, people get really like, should he really be here? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so...
It's a bit sad.
It is sad, because, like, he's clearly very, very old, but, you know, if he was involved in all this kind of... in this corruption, then you kind of think, he's he clearly needs to face the music instead of just like hiding out in Dubai.
Abu Dhabi.
Sorry.
Dhabi.
Okay. Not with consultants. Okay, so where do we? I feel like this is like mid tier.
Yeah, I was contemplating maybe we should do a different list on on royal scandals or something like that.
Yeah,
but
that could be something.
I just think there's a good political consequence to it. I'd put it. I actually didn't completely clock on the fact he was just out of the country completely.
Yeah,
which is
it's interesting.
Quite severe, you know.
Yeah. So would that nudge you to a B, or are you in C kind of territory?
I'd put it in C.
I'm in C too. Yeah.
Because I think it doesn't. I mean, it's misappropriating public funds, but it just makes me sad a bit overall. Like I think it could have been so much more out of this. So yeah. Also, it's kind of. The irony is he was born in exile and he's gonna die in exile.
Damn. Okay. That's profound.
He also allegedly I guess I'm gonna use that word again. He shot his brother.
Oh, that's true.
I was surprised to learn that too.
Accidentally, as a child.
Yeah. Apparently his father never forgave him for that.
Oh, you can see why.
Yeah, which speaks about gun control.
That's pretty sad, but
it's pretty scarring.
That's a true story. Yeah.
Anyways, next one, Lhabib, Haja Lhabib, an Iranian visa problem of last year. So I chose this one as a bit more contemporary. I'm sure Belgium has so many more.
And in our beautiful country here of La Belgique.
Yeah.
And she's now commissioner designate, again at time of recording.
Yeah. There's some question marks if she'll get it or be confirmed because of this scandal in her past. But I expect she'll go for it.
Female politicians need to have scandals too.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a few coming up. I actually didn't think about the gender balance here, but it's
okay.
There's a lot of females involved in some of the ones coming up.
We need some girl bosses.
Yeah,
to the ranks. I remember this one. From last year, which she survived.
Yeah, surprised. I thought the government was going to collapse. I was pretty convinced they were just going to throw in the towel.
Yeah, they actually made it like through the whole term of 5 years, which is impressive.
Yeah, for Belgium?
For Belgium, yeah. And this could have easily collapsed. The like foreign minister of the Brussels region did resign, I remember.
He did, yeah. His name was like...
Pascal Smet.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened was that there was this conference going on, the Brussels Urban Summit, which I thought was very innocuous for
there's like 20 of these conferences every week in Brussels.
Yeah, and I honestly think it was probably some poor intern who made this all happen. But if you're listening to this and it was you, we'll do an anonymous interview. But anyways, what happened was that she apparently approved visas for 14 Iranians, including the mayor of Tehran.
Who's quite a hardliner.
Yeah, not the kind of guy you want to be.
There were some Russian officials also invited?
Yes, Russians were also invited in a similar kind of program and she approved their visas to enter the country to attend the summit. And the Brussels region, and this is why the Smet guy resigned, I believe, was even sent an email saying that they agreed to cover all their travel and accommodations.
Yes, that was not a great look. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about taxpayers' money.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure some of my taxes played for a nice flight from the mayor of Tehran. Yeah. But anyways, The Crow had some interesting quotes on this, which I'm still wrapping my head around, and I don't know if you can show me direction. So he said,
the quotes of the Crow. Okay.
Agitation in Belgium has consequences on the innocents in Iran.
On the innocent people.
Yeah.
So it's like, we can't criticize Iran in case there's repercussions for the normal people.
Yeah, so I don't know what I think he was trying to say, they should have been able to come here and learn from this conference or something. But then he followed this up by, and maybe this is a translation error, and this is a direct quote from Politico, and that's the that's the essential question: is human life worth a visa? End quote.
That is confusing. Okay, that's some serious politician speak.
I really think he was just standing there and was like, how do I fill the air?
It's something like a Scott quote where he's like, sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't know where it's going to end.
Exactly, yeah. It really sounds like that.
Oh, dear Lord.
But they survived. So apparently, if she did resign, he would lose another minister in his government or his cabinet, and then he probably wouldn't have had the support to continue his government or his coalition going forward.
That a foreign minister is a pretty senior role.
Yeah,
too, in the government.
And it was also at the time that Belgium had the presidency. So.
That's a good point. Yeah. This is a really bad look for Belgium, especially because Lhabib, I remember, was quite tough on Iran. When there was the protest, the Massa Amini's death, for example. I think Belgium took quite a strong line, and then this just seems like such a.
I just think it was an oversight. Not to excuse it, but I think it was probably an email came in. They were like, check, thank you, intern, send it off.
Yeah,
but responsibility has to stop. The train stops somewhere, as they say.
That's not what they say. But
they don't. What is it?
The buck stops somewhere. The train does also stop somewhere.
Okay. Well, I guess that's where they come
Maybe
from.
Dutch, that's it.
Yes. Okay. Anyways, where is
the train stopped ergens?
Yeah. Anyways, where are we stopping her at?
I feel like it's a B.
It's a. I think not enough happened because of it. I think if she was
consequences,
I think if she was denied her commissioner position, then I would bump it up a bit.
Or maybe she was given a commissioner position so she wouldn't do any more damage in the Belgian government.
I guess we can move it around if need be later on. Next one, the man in the helmet, as the French media.
Oh yeah,
François Hollande.
Hollande, bien sûr, notre cher ami. Avec sa casquette, okay. So this was
2016.
While he was still president, and he was having an affair with an actor, Julie Gaillet.
Yes, Gaillet.
And he was spotted on a scooter in a very small helmet, being whisked away, and the pictures got leaked to the media and
front page tabloids.
He looks real tabloid fodder.
I would say this. He looks cute in that helmet, I don't know. His face fits it because it's such a smile. Even that picture.
He kind of ate though. Wearing the helmet is crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
This is just he was just cheating on his partner.
Yeah, it's not innocent, but yeah. Anyways, his wife didn't know about this until seeing this tabloid being break out. breakup.
That is unfortunate, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, he wouldn't be the first French president to cheat on his partner.
Yeah. Well, the wife gave a pretty reasonable reaction and trashed some of the the Champs-Élysées, or not the Champs-Élysées, the Élysée, the
Élysée Palace.
That's it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Then she wrote a tell-all book, which caused his approval ratings to dip even lower.
Was it Valérie Trierweiler?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Used to be a journalist, so
Yeah.
don't divorce a journalist.
Yeah, someone who can write. The pen, is a dangerous weapon.
But I'm a sucker for stories of a happy ending. Gaillet and Hollande, they married in 2022.
That's true. There's another story here which has a happy ending.
Yeah. And an even happier ending. The scooter is still around.
He still takes the scooter out?
No, it got sold. It got auctioned off for over 10,000 euros last year.
Wow, that's a collector's item.
I was like, this is the stuff I want to see in the Museum of European History.
Where did that money go? Charity?
I think it got passed off to some private owners and that kind of stuff. So eventually, the one of them was just some old guy who was touring around the country with it, like on the back of a trailer.
That's incredible.
But he decided to pawn it off.
Le Vespe de l'amour.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this is a pretty bog standard. Like, dude cheats on his partner. I don't know, were they married? Anyway, yeah.
Okay, they were married at the time. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was like a life partner situation, but
no.
Yeah. So dude cheats on his wife. French president cheats on his wife. It's even less surprising. I don't know.
I like it. It's
for me. It's like D.
Yeah. I like how bad his approval rating got. 4%, I think it got at one point in time. Which it's like God.
Not even Macron's that low.
Yeah, exactly. And then his response to this whole scandal, he didn't try to deny it.
Yeah.
He simply stated via office or something like he wished he also had been given his own privacy as any citizen. Yeah. Which kind of sets an interesting precedent that he just wanted to keep getting away with cheating.
That's it. Yeah.
You want to put it at a D.
Like for me, yeah. Like obviously, like
it's a fun scandal though.
Cheating on your wife is kind of like
But it broke headlines. It was so like.
I guess it did get a lot of media coverage. Yeah, you're right. Like I do remember.
I think that will probably define him more than any policy he made. Like, tell me a single policy that he did.
It's unfortunate, but it is true. Yeah. Okay, so what do you think then? Where are you putting it?
I'll compromise to the C.
Okay,
and then we'll
C is just where all the scandals reside now.
I guess. Well, the next one I think will end up somewhere different.
Okay.
The Ngyova Affair.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is actually. Will you put the two romantic ones together?
No, they're just alphabetical.
Yeah. But I love it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Yana Ngyova. She was the head of cabinet for the Czech Prime Minister, Denis Nečas, and it's 2013, right?
2012.
2012, okay, yeah. So around that time, yeah. So a big corruption scandal erupts, and it turns out that Nečas and Ngyova are having an affair. And Ngyova gets people from the intelligence agency to spy on Nečas's wife. That is some quality scandal shit right there. Yeah.
In the court proceedings, the judge stated that it was only motivated by a profound hatred for the other woman.
No, it's actually fine because it was just hatred.
Yeah. This is not the first case of this happening, though. Juan Carlos apparently also used his private, security detail to harass one of his former lovers too. Was allegedly.
Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But then, Nečas and Ngyova got married afterwards.
Yep. I love a story of a happy
ending. I know, right? How long Nečas and Ngyova?
But this is maybe not as happy as you think, because there's a rule in the Czech Republic, in Czechia. Apologies to any hardliners on the name change. Yeah. If you are married, you can't be forced to testify against the other person in court. So the theory is she married him to kind of save him a little bit.
Just like that Tyrone Power movie. For prosecution. Great movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
She was actually sentenced to a 2-year suspended jail sentence because she also was apparently planning to bribe free members of parliament to vote a certain way in a thing.
Yeah, there was also some regular corruption.
There was some other stuff going on, yeah.
But that was the fun detail, yeah.
And the government collapsed too.
Yes, it did.
Which is also kind of funny.
Yeah, for me, this is like A tier. This is like S tier. This is up there.
Why is this one that far up and the other one is it?
Oh, it's just fun, spying, and it collapsed the government as well.
There's no
Hollande didn't resign as president.
I mean, basically did. His ratings
Oh,
didn't go.
come on. Yeah, I guess he did.
I see what you mean. I will settle for an A for this one.
I think we take an A. Yeah. I don't know. Just like using the agency to spy on someone, it just feels like such a movie kind of move to do. Yeah. And then we end up together. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, spying is central to the theme of the next one too. Speaking about spying, the NSA wiretapping scandal on Angela Merkel and other heads of state.
The NSA were just wiretapping everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was mad.
I think Merkel got caught in the crossfire the most.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so following the Snowden leaks in 2012, 2014, it emerged that the NSA were basically just wiretapping every major head of state's phone.
Everyone's phone.
Yeah. Yeah, and apparently their office in Berlin, you know, the one next to the Brandenburg-Gate, was a really good location for this because it covered the entire the entire government quarter.
Yeah,
so they
very
can pick up
central.
like every signal, which also makes me suspicious of the Russian embassy right beside it. So
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's just two sides of the same coin there in terms of spying operations. Okay, yeah, I kind of had forgotten about this one. I feel like all the NSA wiretapping thing was huge a few years ago.
I think we just grew up now in such an environment, this being here, that it's almost normalized. Like us post 9/11 kids, you know?
Yeah.
This is just like we expect the government to be able to hack it into our phones if they want to.
Yeah, it's just standard, and you know you have like the Pegasus, spyware scandal too.
Yeah, my smart fridge is spying on me. You know, it's the way life goes, right?
But it also knows how hungry you are at all times, so it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I love being told when to eat by America. Merkel had a nice quote about this because she was like, how much can she criticize the Americans? Because the other thing is it's sure you can criticize them, but you're probably spying on somebody too, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyways, she said, spying between friends, that's just not done.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice, succinct. Yeah.
Yeah. Where do we put this?
B.
Yeah, I think it is quite groundbreaking.
Yeah, to spy on a friend, like spy on an ally.
And I wonder if this
in
actually
that way.
helped them in any way, right?
Yeah, because I imagine there's a lot of sensitive conversations that they got to listen to, and
But does it really? Because they're an ally, you know. Like, do you really think that like when Obama went into meeting with Merkel, he's like, "Oh, my briefing note showed that you had a pretty long conversation last night," you know?
yeah, it's telling me that you had chicken schnitzel for lunch. How was that?
Yeah. Well, Orban is next with Orban's dad's house.
Orban's dad's house. Okay.
That's what I call this one. So apparently the Orban family estate is completely in his father's name.
Classic, yeah.
It's this huge building, and over the last few years, it's been getting renovated to the tune of 30 million euros.
That looks like...
It's
it looks like it should be like a 19th century hospital or something, or like an army barracks.
Yeah.
I just don't get, why does anyone live in a house that size?
It's not even just a house. It's like several different houses which aren't properly connected.
Yeah, I guess it's an estate more so, yeah. But I just don't understand.
You can have all of your friends there, all your favorite government buddies. But yeah.
Yeah, you have a big party with all your Fidesz friends. I heard Yoshef is coming. He's a lot of fun at parties.
Oh, he'll be coming.
Oh, he'll be coming later. Don't worry.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess there's not really any scandal here. It's just his family got pretty rich
around the same time.
Yeah.
Interesting how that works. Yeah.
Coincidences, what I would say.
Coincidences do happen, to be fair.
And I would wonder if in an alternate universe where Viktor Orban was not the leader of Hungary, the democratically elected leader of Hungary, that his father, Gyoza Orbaz, like the Japanese food, would also have attained this level of wealth.
Yes, Mr. Dumpling. So good to see you again.
Yeah, that's my biggest takeaway from here too.
Damn, I am hungry now.
Okay. Me too. I haven't had dinner yet.
Interesting.
Where do we put this one? Technically, it should be F tier for our legal, our legal.
Yeah, let's put an F tier down.
Just in case.
Just legally speaking.
Yeah, I'm sure the money
and
is
F
all.
was looking empty.
Yeah.
Well, it was empty, but it was looking a bit lonely. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just to cover. Let's do anything. Well, Partygate is next.
Here we go, baby. Some old-fashioned British corruption and lying to the people and double standards.
Yeah. The more I was reading this, the more I was like, is it that bad? They just had some parties for staffers to keep morale up. But then I realized the double standards part, and I'm like, yes, you should not be doing this.
Yeah. As someone who, rather depressingly, had to go to 2 funerals during the first lockdown.
Right.
You know, to be limited, you know, this is in Ireland, not in the UK, but, you know, it's similar enough rules. Mm-hmm. To be reduced to, like, you know, 25, 10 mourners, and then to see politicians laughing it up. And I'm sure there are plenty of families in the UK who went through the same experience that I went through, going to funerals in that period. Or, you know, other life events that they wanted to celebrate and they couldn't because they were trying to protect people. And then to see politicians and staffers having fun and having parties and being made to feel like shit themselves if they went if they had any kind of event with like 4 people out in the garden or something, you know, that's something the police are clamping down on. Then it deservedly tanked public confidence in the Tories.
Fair enough. You've won me over. But it didn't tank Boris Johnson.
No, that's another scandal. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get to that one too. It's on this list too. But of course it would have been Boris Johnson though. I think I would have been more surprised if this didn't happen for Boris Johnson.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Just as someone who kind of sees himself as one of the elite, and the rules don't really apply to him in the same way. For me, this is like a B. Because ultimately, like this really dented a lot of voters trusting. Because, you know, there was a time at the start of the pandemic when, like, Boris Johnson was seen as, like, you know, reacting well to the crisis. But
surprisingly so. Yeah, I remember that. The first month or two until this really.
Yeah, even though he locked down later than a lot of other countries. But I think a lot of leaders benefited from a bump during that period, and then he pissed it away with this and other scandals that came around the same time.
Yeah. Anyways, off on to Penelopegate.
This is a good one.
AKA the Fillon Affair. Fillon Affair. Is it Fillon?
Fillon. Yeah, François Fillon.
François.
This is an interesting one because I feel this changes like the course of history.
Does it?
But François Fillon,
right?
So for people who don't know, he was the favorite in the 2017 French presidential election from Les Républicains, the centre-right party. He had been prime minister under Sarkozy and was seen as, like, you know, a pretty solid, dependable figure. French people can correct me, of course, but this is my perception. And then he gets embroiled in this scandal. So Le Canard Enchaîné, the famous satirical newspaper, caught wind of fictional jobs, primarily for his wife Penelope, hence Penelopegate, but also his dentist got paid a bunch to, like, write one report. And
his 2 children also got fictional jobs.
So so there's multiple people who got jobs for doing either no work or very little work, and that ended his presidential run. And this guy Emmanuel Macron emerged from nowhere, not affiliated with either the Republican or the Socialist Party, to become the president. And, like, you know, it's a huge sea change moment. And the rise of the far right too, like the centre right was decimated as political force in the ensuing years, and the far right kind of rose up in France and the centre, and now we have this current instability. I feel like maybe this one that would have happened regardless, but this kind of Fillon scandal, it's one of the great what ifs, I think, of recent European political history.
I didn't have that phrased like that to me, but I really get what you're meaning when you
I'm in a persuasive mood. What can I say?
I believe you. You. Apparently, they got away with between 500 and €1 million in misappropriate funds.
Damn.
And he was what I remember from this one, I believe, or was it Sarkozy?
It's hard to keep up.
Yeah. Anyways, I think it was Sarkozy speaking up. But anyways, he was arrested on this.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And they served, both of them. They received 5 years in prison, 3 of them suspended for Fillon.
Yeah,
which is quite. This is still 2 years in prison.
That is quite severe. Yeah, like surprisingly so.
She was given 3 years suspended sentence because you know it's not like she showed up in the first place. And they both fined €375,000, which is quite a bit too. But
For me, this is S tier.
S. I would have said A. I don't think it's. I think if the jobs were funnier, then it would have gone up to S.
if they were hired to build a treetop canopy. They
Exactly.
would
Yeah. But he did try to persist it out because he originally said to the French public, if I get indicted or something like that,
Oh yeah.
then I'll resign, and he didn't do it.
Yeah.
And I was like,
We
really?
can do it. We can do it. That's fine as well. But yeah, this is a very...
Unless you really want to push for S.
No. It's okay. We can do A. We've got some S tier coming up.
Fair enough. Well, Pfizergate is next. Notice there's a lot of gates and affairs, you know?
Well, yeah, it's the go-to. There was the guy who crashed a truck into the gates of the Irish Parliament, and that was called Gate.
I like that one. I didn't put on the... Oh, we should put that on here. I didn't put on the Canadian elbow gate, which is the most prominent Canadian political scandal.
Yeah, Pfizergate. Yeah, this is obviously a COVID-related one. That is still rumbling on, right?
It is, yeah. I actually saw a LinkedIn post today about some guy talking with the justice about it, and I was like, huh. But yeah, I guess it is a big deal, or it's at least it poses a question. So what happened is in 2021, the height of the pandemic, you know, the EU signed a 35 billion euro deal with Pfizer for 900 million doses of the vaccine.
Yeah.
The issue was, it emerged a few months later that the way this deal was negotiated was by von der Leyen personally using her personal phone in direct text messages with the CEO of Pfizer.
Exactly, yeah. So Albert Boehler and her were exchanging texts.
Who knows?
And those texts just kind of vanished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is suspicious.
And this argument, like, texts aren't... The rules don't apply to text in the same way as like a written correspondence and freedom of information, and it's all gotten a bit murky. Yeah.
I mean, I think I think if it's texts that deal with business-related work, then they should be, you know, publicly accessible and because it's a publicly elected official.
Phone rather than a personal phone.
Exactly.
As well,
Exactly. It would have all been avoided if you just used the proper means of communication. I don't think maybe it was such a pressing crisis that she had to be texting him on WhatsApp or whatever, But I don't know if it was. Like I think like if you're the leader of the European Commission, you have staff that can negotiate this stuff.
Well, also like we're not talking, ordering a new like set of stationery for the office.
Yeah.
You're talking billions of euros here.
35 billion is more money we've seen this list.
In terms of the sums of money, this is probably the biggest scandal, technically.
That's like 10 Berlusconis.
I know, right? Yeah. And also, like, a lot of those vaccines went unused and got destroyed.
Yeah.
And, so a lot of money was actually wasted, too. Now, of course, better to overspend on vaccines than to underspend during
But there was also the whole gate with AstraZeneca, where I think they were originally supposed to supply the vaccines, but then they were being too slow or something. I think maybe they actually were, but then all of a sudden Pfizer came out with this huge contract, and people were like, this amount is much larger than we think it should have been in the first place. So
exactly, yeah. So that's still rumbling on. I know that's been investigated by the European Public Prosecutor's Office. Yeah,
some guy opened up a private case against her in Belgian court.
Sure, why not?
Which I'm like, go for it. But
knock yourself out, boy.
I mean,
for me, this is high. This is high, even though consequences haven't been felt yet. I would put this A or B.
I would go B because it didn't impact her re-election.
That's true, yeah. She actually rolled through pretty well.
Yeah, and I was suspecting her re-election not to be as smooth as it was. I mean, not saying this is like... I mean, I see how she's making an argument, and maybe she feels like it wasn't wrong. And, she is elected as the head of the European Commission. We should trust her to do stuff like this. But...
Also, we're saying all this in our personal capacity as citizens. We're not we're not speaking on behalf of our employers. Very frankly,
yes.
I feel like we should have said it at the top of the program, but we didn't. I think this was she didn't have a challenger, so ultimately, she was able to kind of sail through. And okay, I think B is fair.
Speaking about another beloved British man.
Truth is stranger than fiction.
David Cameron.
Piggate. D. Cameron.
Whenever I see it spelled Piggate, I want to say Piggate.
It sounds like a town in England.
Yeah. Is that a town in England?
Probably is,
Yeah, that sounds correct.
Yeah.
Anyways, he was so in an unauthorized biography in 2015, I believe.
Emphasis on unauthorized.
Yes. So there's an allegation there that David Cameron had inserted his penis into the mouth of a dead pig as part of an initiation ceremony for the Pierre Gaveston Society at Oxford University.
Of course, yeah.
And this, coupled with his already fairly unpopular policies, made him quite the easy target for some time.
And this came after the Black Mirror episode.
Ah, yeah,
where
I
the
forgot
Prime Minister
about.
has to have sex with a pig.
Yeah.
So again, as I said, true, strange, and fiction. And and you
forgot
picked a
about
picture of
that.
him with a pig.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one they were using in the
I
newspapers.
know, yeah. I just feel sorry for that pig getting dragged into this mess. Yeah.
I did read more into the story, though. So there's another section to this where the co-author of the book was Lord Michael Ashcroft, who used to be a very major sponsor of the Conservative Party, like millions of British pounds donated, right?
Okay.
And he was quite upset at I almost said David Macron, at David Cameron. Dave Cameron. David, he goes by Dave, though. Anyways, the book was called Call Me Dave, by the way, which sounds like a...
Call me by your Dave. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking of. Anyways, he was quite upset with Cameron for not appointing him to a high-level government position.
Okay.
And then he wrote this book, which some could have seen as him trying to get the last laugh in.
Yeah, a bit of a smear campaign.
Which kind of makes me a bit more sympathetic to Cameron. Because if this is just libel, it's like, I will forever know Cameron now, having grown up in the time that this was in the headlines, as the guy with the pig, you know.
Yeah, but he didn't like sue or anything like that. He didn't.
I mean, what are you gonna do, right?
like not fuck a pig? Like what?
I mean, I do respect the way he tried to handle it, because apparently he was like joking about it in press conferences. Like he went to Oxford like a few weeks after for like a scheduled appearance. He was like, "Yeah, a lot of stuff going around here, you know." But
a lot of good looking piggy there.
Yeah, I just feel like it was blown really out of proportion. Though,
yeah,
for just an allegation, which otherwise would have just...
It's a definition of salacious. Yeah. For me, that's kind of low down.
I'd still put it C, because it will, again, kind of like the one of Hollande. It's gonna define my perception going forward as a young person growing up in this era, right?
I can accept that argument. Yeah. I think, C is fine.
Plus, what else has he left as a legacy beyond the...
What was that Brexit thing again?
Oh yeah, I was considering putting it on here too, actually, because I think
scandal,
that's
the boss.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, £300 million.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Anyway, let's keep rolling here because I'm gonna get derailed.
Well, back to Britain. I called this one Pincher's Pinches.
Pinch by name, pinch by nature. That was one of the quotes. Yeah. This was
Chris Pincher.
Yes, summer 2022. This was actually around the same time as Partygate being discussed a lot in the media.
I felt like Partygate died down a little bit, and then this one came out of nowhere.
Yeah. I think Party kind of led into Chris Pincher.
Yeah.
So he was deputy chief whip of the Conservative Party.
But no, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so he was a senior figure in the Conservative Party, and was a creep who was guilty of sexually assaulting several people. He admitted to it. He said he'd had too many drinks. No, he said himself. He was like,
But if you had drinks, does that make you guilty? And just covering your ass here. Well, especially on Pincher, you know.
Yeah, that's true. But no, I think, he said himself, like, I behaved in a way that was unbecoming of my position.
Right.
That he'd been on a night out and he'd, like, sexually assaulted 2 people. I'm not sure what he admitted to exactly, but, like, he acknowledged that he behaved poorly. Yeah. And then other allegations were circulating about him, and Boris Johnson initially distanced himself.
Yeah.
And then had to undistance himself when it became clear that he did know about these allegations and other allegations around Chris Pincher before he got appointed to this prominent position.
Apparently in 2020, there's a quote of Johnson calling him handsy.
Yeah,
which
exactly. And you're just thinking, this is just the Tories kind of reaching interminable decline. And they remained in power for like 2 years after this.
Yeah, I just thought it was crazy that this is what led to the end of Boris. Because what happened is eventually, once it became known that Boris had known about this happening, then there's a mass resignation of different conservative people, led a large part by Rishi Sunak.
That was fun. That couple of days. It was like, who's going next?
Yeah. And I was just surprised that he actually resigned. I didn't expect him to ever resign, Boris.
Well, if I remember correctly, there was also a report, the internal ethics committee recommended he be suspended if he didn't resign and stuff. So I think he was about to be pushed and he jumped.
But this is not what I will remember about Boris Johnson.
Oh no.
And I think it's almost like there have been so many other scandals I would have expected him to go out with.
Partygate should have ended him, really. Yeah. But this tipped him over the edge for sure.
I guess this is more legally binding, so to say.
Yeah. So would you say that knocked it into a B instead of an A?
Yeah, because I don't think people will remember Pincher. Like if I go to person 5 years and be like, "Oh, remember the Chris Pincher scandal?"
It's just a name. It's a nominative determinism.
I think what really makes it so impactful is what happened because of it, not the scandal itself. But yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what happened afterwards. People obviously there were victims who spoke out, and more power to them.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, Predatorgate. Want to see what this one's about?
I presume this is about the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, but that would have been a lot more fun.
Yeah,
it was also known as the 2022 Greek surveillance scandal.
Yawn. Okay. No Carl Weathers involved. Don't care.
Yeah. Anyways, in 2019, new Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis, thank you. He was elected, and one of his first acts in power was to make the National Intelligence Service report directly to him.
That's always a good sign.
It is a great sign.
Yeah.
Anyways, in July 2023, a few years later, it emerged that I think around 100 government officials had received links to clandestinely install the Predator surveillance software onto their phones. And the official ruling was it only happened to 2 of them, but I think that's very unlikely.
Yeah.
Anyways, this led to a lot of internal, bickering. I don't think there were many resignations about this, and the Prime Minister claimed not to know anything about it, which is kind of ridiculous.
They're reporting directly to me, but I also have no idea what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the bigger repercussion, and this is a fun for you statistics nerds, is that the European country who ranks lowest in media freedom or press freedom is Greece, sitting at 108th in 2023 on the ranking because of this. They fell, I think, 30 to 40% places on the list because of this scandal.
Okay, yeah. That's a serious fall from grace, yeah.
And in 2024, I think beginning of the month actually, it was determined everybody's off the hook.
Yeah, the complete whitewash. Yeah, no, very disappointing. I know. European Parliament we're following this pretty closely, but just shows kind of toothless because the domestic judiciary kind of decide no, it's all good, and voila. We always have to move on with our lives and just pretend like it never happened until the next person gets their phone tapped.
Yeah, and I think people really overlook scandals like these because they are it's kind of like corruption, but on the other side of the coin, right? Where how well functioning can you have a democracy if there's a prime minister who allegedly just folds a surveillance agency under his direct control and then starts installing software on his opponents,
And to preserve liberty, how much liberty do you have to remove?
Yeah. That's true too.
Hacking people's private, phones and listening to conversations, all for the sake of freedom or for security. Then
to quote the great Prime Minister De Croo, how much life is worth a visa?
Whatever that means, but it was profound.
I would go B on this. I think the impacts of this are quite...
I'm going to say C because there's no consequences.
I'll accept that.
I think,
I think that's...
For me, it's pretty shocking. But also, it's kind of like the wiretapping.
Yeah.
But, on maybe a smaller scale because it's, internal... It's more sophisticated technology for sure. But, the lack of consequences means it's a C for me, dog.
Up next, the Puffin Scandal. Have you heard of the Puffin Scandal?
I don't think I have, no.
You want to take a guess at what this involves?
I'm going to say it's Icelandic minister killing a puffin.
Damn, you got it right on.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So, 2006, I had to go back far to find. The other Icelandic scandal was the previous prime minister trying to get a pedophile pardoned, which I did not want to cover.
Anyways, that's more Hungary's situation.
Anyways,
sorry, people who covered up.
Yeah. Anyways, Puffin Scandal, 2006. Einar K. Guðfinnsson, he was the Minister of Fisheries.
Excellent.
Was found.
Puffin's not a fish though.
He was exposed. Well, fisheries and that got folded into whatever. But anyways, he was exposed for illegal puffin hunting without a stipulated hunting license.
Oh, so you can get a license for it. Okay.
I was also surprised to learn you can hunt a puffin, but
they just feel too cute to hunt.
I didn't realize they lived in Europe. If that sounds bad.
Yeah, they're up there. Yeah, Iceland, Faroe Islands. That kind of
I just don't associate them. I always thought they were like Antarctic or something like that.
Oh.
They look like penguins. I think is where I'm going on.
Just penguins. Penguin and toucan combined.
They start with P. Anyways, he faced no real repercussions for this, but it's funny that this is on their Wikipedia as one of their scandals.
Okay, so it's like a D.
Yeah. I think it's a D.
Yeah.
But it's fun, and I didn't realize how cute puffins were.
That's the real moral of the story. Puffins are cute.
Yeah, they're really like the pictures are all really perfect looking. Like you can't find a scruffy one.
They are very photogenic.
So speaking about photogenic people doing bad things,
the puffin didn't do anything bad.
It could have. It got shot for a reason. Nothing. I believe in fate.
The puffin was actually embezzling money. Sorry.
Exactly. It was all
allegedly
an escort fund. But anyways, Qatargate.
Yeah. When you need A to Z of scandals, you need a Q. Qatargate. That really does the job. Yeah, this is like my first couple of months in my current job, and like kind of being like an EU stuff.
Yeah.
And then this blew up, and you're like, oh my god, it's the craziest thing. And they were kind of like, oh yeah, Qatargate, I remember that. It's weird, It's just like it was huge for a couple of weeks, and then like it's naturally just died down and been overtaken by other things in the news cycle.
I still think it holds a pretty strong place though, because I think just the scale of what happened and the people who were involved, it's quite a big thing that happened.
No, for sure. Like, it's the biggest corruption scandal in the 21st century. Like, really,
probably,
since in the EU, I mean, like, since the idiocrasy stuff in like the late 90s.
Yeah. I mean, to give an overview for people who are unaware, so there were long-standing suspicions that certain governments were trying to influence votes in the European Parliament. And specifically, due to the Qatargate investigations, they were allegedly the governments of Qatar, Morocco, Mauritania, sorry.
Not Mauritius.
Sorry, Mauritius. That was my poor handwriting.
Beautiful honeymoon destination. Yes. No beef with you.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyways, in 2022, December 22, the Belgian police began, putting it all together after like a long investigation, and they began doing raids on I think 20 different locations, including offices in the European Parliament, private residences, and what emerged was quite shocking because they arrested Eva Kaili, who was at that time one of the I think the 7 vice presidents of the European Parliament, which is one of the high positions in the Parliament, and she'd been well known around Brussels for being a young woman who was really leading the political scene at the time there.
Particularly on tech policy, she was seen as like one of like the main voices in the Parliament in that area.
Yeah, definitely. It was quite a shocking thing to happen.
Yeah, of course, and her father was caught in a Brussels hotel trying to stuff a load of cash into a duffel bag.
Yeah.
Which is not a great look when you're being suspected of corruption.
Because that was one of the first things that kicked it all off, is because they had set up a sting operation, I think, to get him. And then he tried running away with, I think my notes said it was several hundreds of thousands of cash stuffed in a suitcase or duffel bag.
Yeah.
And then all the pieces started crumbling.
Yeah, so there was this kind of network being allegedly run by Antonio Panzeri, who was an MEP before.
Italian.
And also another Italian, Francesco Giorgi, who was Eva Kaili's partner, or was at the time anyway.
Life partner.
That he was implicated in this too, that Panzeri was orchestrating payments from different governments. They kind of disagree over who was paying, but like Qatar comes up quite a lot, Morocco, Mauritania, and Eva Kaili was very pro-Qatar in the parliament.
Yeah.
And most suspiciously voted on a resolution supporting Qatari aviation in a committee she wasn't a member of.
Oh yeah, I remember that. She just walked in.
Yeah.
I think.
Now, you are allowed to do that. Like, you can vote on committees that you're not a member of, but you have to give it advance notice. And she just kind of rocked up and was like, hey, I'm voting in favour of this.
Yeah.
And like, you're not in this committee.
Yeah.
But she voted anyway.
And it's like, what in her background connected to Qatar, you know? It's such a weird
tangent. Yeah, that was it, yeah. And ultimately, she, like Hockford, she stayed on as an MEP, but, you know, she got stripped of her vice president position and kicked out of her group, and just kind of saw the rest of her term just like a ghost, like voting in plenary, and other MEPs got similar treatment, the case is still ongoing, of course, but it's had like a lot of twists and turns.
The other MEP prominently indicated was Belgian MEP Mark Tarabella, who is currently in the Saint-Gilles prison, I believe, still locked up for this.
And then another Belgian MEP, Marina was implicated, and then her like son had a business with like the judge's son who's investigating, so he had to like recuse himself. Michel Leclerc, and so there was like a whole like just like this network of everyone kind of being linked to each other, and it was very messy. And like these NGOs that were like just seemed like fronts for lobbying in favor of Qatar and of other governments. A huge mess, and I guess it's a shame we haven't seen more reforms in the parliament.
They passed through a bunch of reforms, which were very long overdue, in my humble opinion. Of just transparency ones, which I thought were there in the first place, but turned out not to be.
And that's why they were targeted, because clearly, the certain governments saw the European Parliament as easier to manipulate compared to national parliaments, which have very strict rules around, accepting gifts or what meetings you take or how you record meetings, and things have gotten better, but like right now it's still, I guess, hard to judge the long-term impacts of it because we're only 18 months out from it.
I will say I vividly remember thinking when this all broke out, people were like, I knew her like APA or stuff like that, and it's like that must be so terrible a feeling, because you're probably like a young person really striving to get things done in the environment, and then all of a sudden your whole career path gets pulled out from under you because who will hire you now being associated with that? Even on the off chance that and against anything that you've done. It's not like she lost an election, it's simply her own actions, alleged actions. She still denies it to this day.
Well, of course, she sees herself as the victim of some conspiracy. And
did you see I think a year ago when she was released from prison, because she got released in 2023 with an ankle bracelet, and she's actually allowed to travel all through Schengen, which I was quite surprised at.
That's you for you, baby.
Yeah.
She can't come to Ireland. So,
Anyways, then she was starting to resume her duties in Parliament, which is a bit of a buzz, and she had posted job openings for new APAs to support her, and I'm like, that's gonna be I really wonder who took that in the end of the day.
Yeah, how do you feel about reputational damage?
How desperate are you to have that in your seat? No. And I also felt, I remember just thinking about it, because she also had a small daughter at the time, and she made a whole big mess about how she wasn't being allowed to see her daughter and stuff like that, which I thought was a bit, I don't know, you commit a crime, you suffered a punishment. I mean, it shouldn't impact your daughter.
But you still have rights though when you're being accused of something, like, she wasn't, she hadn't been indicted or she hadn't been like convicted. But it's just a big mess basically, and hopefully we'll the ultimate outcome will be a more transparent parliament that can't be influenced in nefarious ways by bad actors.
It did make me not wonder, but like just think about, like, I assume she was like the average person you meet in Brussels, like a super, ambitious like woman going around her life, and just decided to take a few shortcuts here and there, or shortcuts in like financial stability, right?
Yeah, and in terms of people as well, like if her partner was implicated, like you don't know who got who involved.
But I just happen because apparently she was just locked up in Saint-Gilles for a while, and then like went to the Palais de Justice and everything like that. And I'm just thinking, like, imagine being her. Like 1 month earlier, vice president of the European Parliament. A month later, you're stuck in a jail cell in Belgium.
That's a good point,
And your entire life is
Belgium of all places.
And it's like you really want to get caught in the Brussels lifestyle so much that.
God, we're getting too serious now. This is deep.
Yeah, no, then again, I wrote these notes at 2 a.m. last night, so
you're in a pensive mood.
Yeah. Where I think this is at least an A or an S, probably an A. because she could be found not guilty.
Outcomes unclear, so A is probably best, And also, we're still not sure if it will ultimately make the Parliament more transparent. We hope it will.
Yeah, I would hope it would.
Yeah.
Next up is a beautiful Italian couple.
We love.
I know.
On the BRUBBLE podcast.
San Giuliani.
San Giuliano, General San Giuliano.
Yeah. So what happened to him?
Yeah, so this is the most recent one. This is only the last few weeks. We have seen this emerge. General San Giuliano was the culture minister in Giorgia Meloni's government. And he got mixed up with an influencer.
I question how apt the title influencer is.
With a lady online.
Because
who has an Instagram account.
Yes, that was what I was thinking. What's the barrier to being called an influencer here? Like, let's say I had an affair with a prominent, like, woman of Brussels politics.
Yeah.
Would they call me an influencer for having a podcast I occasionally go on to?
You have much influence in Brussels, don't worry. So,
Anyways, sorry, go on.
Okay, you're getting a bit lost in the weeds here. But, Boccia, I can't remember, is it Marta Boccia?
Maria Rosario
Boccia. So, Maria Boccia, an influencer, woman on Instagram account. She was bragging online about how she...
On LinkedIn, of all places.
She was, bragging about how she was going to be an advisor to the Italian Culture Ministry and helping the preparations as they're holding the G7 presidency at the moment. And the Culture Ministry and San Giuliano were like, oh, no, she's not an advisor. No, we don't know what you're talking about. But Maria, fair play to her, kept receipts. She had all the email exchanges and everything. And she had, the expenses of the trips that she took to help organize the G7 meeting in Positano. And San Giuliano then had to come out and be like, okay, we were having an affair. Okay, guys. Look,
tearfully.
He did cry on TV. But pretty embarrassing for him to because the Meloni government has done well to avoid scandal.
There have been a few other prominent cases. I'll mention them in the fun part.
Avoiding resignations, we'll say. There was the guy who stopped a train.
Yeah, so, that was the guy who's got a best.
A lot of big job. But anyway. Okay, but like resignations, like Berlesconi level, they've avoided.
Right.
It's a little better. But San Giuliano, was having an affair with this woman, and she had access to like confidential documents as well, and he had to resign and apologize to Georgia.
Yeah. And his wife, I assume.
Probably his wife, too.
What I found funny is that her influencer status had her posting publicly pictures of them hanging out for like the past year. And I was like, really? You just gotta allow that. And it wasn't just phone pictures, right? Yeah. Apparently she had like the Ray-Ban Meta glasses.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
She's in the future.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if he even knew she was taking pictures. Like, if this is all a surprise to him when he, the whole thing blew up and he's like, what?
He was just like, she said she had glaucoma. That's why she's wearing glasses indoors.
I should watch out, though, because obviously this woman uses LinkedIn quite a lot, so...
Maria, if you're watching, write to rebuttal, of course.
Do not, actually. I do not want to deal with that. I apologize for any
Maria.
offenses, and I apologize for the situation you found yourself in.
Maybe this is recency bias. It's not the worst one. It's, but she did have access to all these government documents. And
and it just speaks of corruption, too, just promoting somebody not based on merit. Well, I guess there was some merit involved, but not the kind of merit that the public...
Sentimental reasons,
That was actually what we called it,
Yeah, so for B, we said B in this.
I would have gone C, but...
Maybe it's just a recency bias, but
They didn't get married, is what I would say.
Yet.
If they get married, and if you listen to this,
come back
then you get bumped up to a B.
If you want a B, guys, you need to get married.
You need to show the dedication,
Yeah. We're not telling you what to do, but...
Next is Sanna Marin's misconduct.
Oh, God. This is so embarrassing.
Situation. Yeah. So in 2022, she was, at the time, I think she was the youngest head of state. And there emerged some videos of her dancing around wildly at night in a party environment.
Yeah, with her friends.
Yeah. And that blew up, and people said it was unprofessional behavior or misconduct for her.
And there were allegations of drug use and she had to do a drug test as well.
I think they asked her to. I don't think she did. I'm not sure.
I think she offered to do one.
Fair enough. Then.
But either way, yeah. So yeah, this is storming the teacup behaviour. But yeah, there was these videos of her partying with her friends as a woman in her 30s, and you know, she's entitled to do that. She wasn't like, you know, doing bottle service on taxpayer money.
No, exactly.
Like that. Yeah.
And she was actually like afterwards, like in response to this, she came out and she was like, "Yeah, this is who I am. I would release this video myself, and I would do it again. It is just who I am." And I kind of do respect that, because that's really telling to people, like, if you actually disagree with this, then you should not vote for me, right?
Her other partying story was when she partied when she was a COVID close contact.
Right.
And she shouldn't have been in the club. So that was a misstep, that story. But this one, just to party in the video and stuff, this is an F for sure.
Yeah, I would agree too, because it's kind of like one of those things that got a lot of attention, and I really wonder why, you know?
Yeah, no, it did get a lot of coverage. Like, I think we expect politicians to be dry, and if they're fun, we're kind of like, they're probably a bit corrupt on the side. You can't be both, you know?
Yeah.
You can't be fun and efficient.
Yeah.
Like, could you see Valis Dombrovskis going to a rave? You know? Yeah. Like, he's efficient. So.
Moving on to Sarkozy and his corruption scheme.
Singular?
Schemes. Sorry. Yeah, there's two major ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, and both dealt with the same time period. So I believe in the precursor to his election, in his 2007 campaign, it was alleged that Libya allegedly provided upwards of 50 million euros in terms of campaign financing.
It's a lot of cheddar, yeah.
Which was not properly disclosed nor properly obtained. And then there's a second incident also for the 2007 campaign where there was allegedly an illicit payments from the L'Oréal Harris of Bittencourt towards that same campaign as well, which was also not disclosed. So what happened there is to cover that was being investigated, and then he apparently bribed a judge with a new retirement package for information on the progress on this trial of the Bittencourt.
Was that Aziva or whatever? Yeah, he was going to offer the guy a job in Monaco. Yeah, and it was going to be like just a cushy position, basically. Yeah.
And that's the one that really nailed him, because it was directly influencing a judge, and he was found guilty of a 1-year prison sentence, which I didn't know. I thought he went to prison. It turns out he served it at home with an ankle bracelet.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah.
That's not prison, guys.
No, it's not.
We all did it in the pandemic, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I do this basically every day, home and work, you know? It's like, what's the difference?
Simon has no social life, come on. Yeah.
Yeah, these podcasts take it out of you, you know? But yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. So.
Yeah. No, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. It feels like, this should be talked about more outside of France.
I mean, I do remember this, because I think this blew up before Penelopegate, right? Did it? I think it did.
Similar time frame, yeah.
Yeah, but I just remember hearing that the French president was in jail. And I was like, this is quite crazy.
Oh la la, he said. Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's ridiculous, but...
This is giving C to me.
I would have gone B just because I knew
you'd say that. I knew you'd say B. Yeah.
I will surprise you.
I just don't remember it that well from the time, but...
I do have a distinct memory of this being some guy, the French president, being in prison, and just being in North America at the time. I was like, really?
A president could be a felon? That's crazy. Okay.
Imagine that nowadays. You know? Now we have another more local scandal. Have you heard about this one? The Secret Club scandal.
Nightclub?
No.
Okay. No, Secrets is... No, that's a different kind of club.
Yeah. So this is a Croatian scandal.
Okay. Happened
in Zagreb, I believe, in the last few years. So apparently there was this 2-story building which was used as a secret club for high-level politicians and stuff to mingle in, where there was, you know, allegedly when you entered, you'd put your phone in a basket or something, and then there was like, well, maybe not the keys, but then it is like an unlimited type of bar. There were like some women dressed inappropriately, stuff like that. Just a nice little environment.
Go-go dancers, possibly. Yeah.
And they really liked this one during COVID. was apparently the thing too. And then what they were also using it for was as like a handoff point for bribes.
Okay.
And that kind of let the police blow this one open, and then this came to promise you. And the reason this was not just a simple like corruption one is that the husband of former Prime President Kolinda Grober Kitarovic, he was also apparently frequently involved in this club, and the former president Zoran Milanovic also visited a few times.
Okay,
And
so there's a who's who.
Yeah, but he had a great excuse.
He was just looking for directions how to get away from there.
Well, but let's say you were caught in a scandal. Let's say you suddenly, unknowingly, found yourself in a secret club. You know, maybe some cocaine on the side, maybe some booze, maybe a topless woman, and the media comes up to you and like, "Hey, why are you here?" What's your go-to response?
You're investigating as part of the ethics committee of the Croatian Parliament.
No, yeah, fair enough.
He was undercover, you know.
Yeah, with his Ray-Ban glasses.
Yeah, I'm undercover as a politician.
Yeah. Well, his actual excuse, and this is a quote, which is probably translated poorly. A friend had too much food, and it should not go to waste, so I went there for a practical solution.
Food is code for money here.
His basic claim was he didn't want the food to be wasted, so he went there to get some snacks on the way home.
Okay, so he got a text being like, "We ordered way too much catering."
That's his excuse.
Yeah, that's fantastic. happens in my job too. We get too much food and you end up like having like, you know, quiche for like 2 days.
Yeah. I don't like quiche.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Well,
It's my
but we don't hold a quiche in like, you know, a nightclub. So
yeah.
yeah.
Anyways, where do we put this one? I'd say around
B.
A B? That high?
What if it sounds very shady? Yeah, like all these
does.
politicians all in their secret little building.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not the Parliament, right, guys? Doing all their dodgy dealings. I don't know, what were the repercussions though? Did anyone resign?
Not really. They were just a bit annoyed at the president.
Okay, yeah.
It was just a bit of a scandal.
It's kind of crazy, yeah. Especially during COVID too, they were doing this, yeah.
Yeah. Certain stages. But anyways, I would go C, maybe C or D.
Okay.
Big resistance here.
You pick whatever you want, yeah.
Yeah, I'll pick.
You're in charge of the cursor, so that's really what matters here.
Next time I'll let you design the graphics.
Hooray!
Next one is a Zjögö, the Hungarian.
Oh, Zaire.
Zaire. Sorry, I couldn't read my own handwriting.
Josef Zaire, yeah.
This is the last one I wrote.
Oh man, this is a doozy.
And as a local connection, I will let people know that the building, which Dan will tell the story about, was maybe 100 meters away from where we're sitting here today.
Yeah. So we won't give the street name, but if you Google it, you'll find where someone lives, basically.
Basically, yeah. I did feel about that for a second.
So, it's November 2020, to set the scene. COVID lockdown. Pretty strict. City centre of Brussels. A local is hearing a pretty raucous party going on nearby. They're unhappy about it. But the noise and perhaps, you know, the contravention of COVID regulations occurring, so they ring up the police. And they go, "Hey, I think you gotta break up this party." Brussels police show up to the apartment, open the door, voila. It's an orgy. It's an all-male orgy. For me, you know, usually absolutely fine. In COVID, not cool, I would say. So this would have been maybe a local story.
Yeah.
Except for one attendee who, when caught by the police trying to escape down a drain pipe, said that he had a diplomatic passport at home that he would show them. He brought them to his apartment. He was an MEP from Viktor Orban's party. Josef Zaire, who was, I think, the head of the delegation of Fidesz at the time. So he was like Orban's point man in Brussels, we'll say. So a very senior member of the party. Had been an MEP for quite some time. And had attended this orgy, admitted that. Was found with an ecstasy pill on him. Denied that was his. He said it was planted on him. But he did admit to a personal failing. By attending this orgy during COVID. And resigned and promptly disappeared from public life, and we don't know what he's doing now.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
He's just off the map.
And he sued another politician previously because she had said that he was gay.
Ironic.
Yeah. So there we go. That's all I know. So if you have any other details to add.
I think you covered up pretty well.
Thank
I think
you.
his disappearance from public life kind of...
Yeah, it's weird.
It's a bit odd, but maybe if you're out there, comment on the video.
Josef, you hop on LinkedIn, let us know.
Not on LinkedIn, that's my professional. You're setting me up for all these...
in the DMs, please, Josef.
Encounters.
And if you're in Brussels city centre, if you see a drain pipe with a lot of Hungarian memes on it, that is the drain pipe he went down. So it's kind of a site of pilgrimage.
Cultural landmark.
For Hungarians when in Brussels to just take the piss out of him and take the piss out of the government. So there you go. That's the story of Josef Sayer.
I think you summed it up very beautifully.
Thank you.
As somebody who lives on the street, I think it's definitely defined the way we experience the building we live in. Before I knew the exact location, I thought everywhere is where it could have happened, including where I live now, which added some allure to
It's
which
a nice
justified the rent I paid a bit more, you know. But
it's going to be a historic landmark one
it
day.
could have happened here. But anyways, S tier or A tier? I think that's the real question here.
S tier.
Yeah.
S tier. Honestly, it's a crazy story.
And one final little one, Golfgate. Definitely alphabetical.
This is Golfgate.
I forgot to put this one in the original one.
That's
Then
okay.
I had to throw it in last minute. Where do we put Golfgate? What happened?
I guess you haven't started telling more again because this is an Irish one. Also from 2020. So another COVID situation. So in the summer of 2020, the Irish Parliament it has a golf society, and they had their annual event, and they played some golf, and they had a dinner afterwards. At the time, there was a restriction on indoor gatherings of up to 50 people, and there was this group was larger than 50, but they're divided
86.
into there we go. So they're divided into two groups, and it seems like they were mostly partitioned. There was a gap for waiters to pass through, and some people went to the other side of the room to collect an award. Some speeches were given, so it seems like
they made an attempt.
Yeah, it wasn't 100% airtight. The two rooms were separate. It wasn't Berlin Wall, but at the same time, it wasn't what people thought. They were having this big party or something, all in one room together. So it's a bit of a weird one. But it was still just a bad idea because once the news got out, and it was all these senior politicians were there. There was a justice from the Supreme Court was there. Yeah. The Irish Commissioner Phil Hogan was there.
Oh really?
And that cost him his job.
Oh, that's
why he resigned. Yeah.
I didn't realize.
So that was the biggest consequence. Also, the agriculture minister resigned, and someone else from the Senate resigned. The agriculture minister was the second one to resign that summer, because the previous guy had gotten in trouble over drunk driving convictions.
Did they catch his breath test there?
And so the Commissioner Phil Hogan, he'd also been on the way to this event, he'd been caught driving while using his mobile phone and got fined. So he was committing multiple offences on the same day.
It's just this unlucky day.
I know, right?
I feel like if the stars didn't align so perfectly, nobody would have blinked an eye at this.
Yeah, and the former Prime Minister refused to go because he said this would look bad.
That's good on him.
Out. So he actually had the brains and the Kenny to be we shouldn't do this, I'm not going to go. But a lot of senior politicians did. The Supreme Court Justice is still in his job because the independence of the judiciary. He was told to resign by the Chief Justice, and he said, nah.
But they're appointed for... Are they appointed for life in Ireland as well? Or is that just a Canadian
no, they have to retire at 70, I think? 75? 70, yeah, I'm pretty sure. So up to a certain age, yeah. But yeah, this guy is still in the job. And he said that the media treated this meeting like it was a meeting of the KKK. So he went overboard in his reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it took a few political scalps. In the end, I think it was probably overblown. But it's not as bad as Partygate, I would argue.
Yeah.
But it did have actually some political ramifications, and ultimately,
arguably it had more ramifications.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And so it led to a minister and a commissioner resigning.
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
So there we go.
Yeah.
So COVID here is a recurring theme.
I was planning to make like a COVIDiots category. Yeah. Should have been D tier. I think D tier sounds good.
Yeah, because like it shouldn't have been a scandal, but it was just more stupid from them to do it, to have this event, because it was always going to look bad.
Yeah.
And it did take a couple of big name politicians down. And Phil Hogan now is, just like making big bucks as a consultant, so he's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, like, one of the reflections I had after doing all this research and throwing this thing together, it's like, what did these guys do after the scandals? Like, do you actually think they actually reflect on this? Like, especially the ones that, scraped by just like a minimal sentence or something, like Sarkozy. Yeah. Do you think he looks back at his time and is like, damn, I wish I wasn't so negligent in my campaign financing,
I think that for a lot of politicians, there's a sense of like, everyone's doing it.
Right.
So like, why am I the one being attacked and being chased in the courts, and like this is just the way politics works? Like, I think there's a lot of politicians see it as like an inherently dirty business, and of course money and interest and lobbying is like, oh well, you got to listen to like external stakeholders. It's just when the money starts changing hands and the cash is being stuffed into a duffel bag that maybe I start questioning your career choices.
No, definitely, because it is quite interesting to reflect on the whole collection of things we have here, because they do speak a bit towards what the values are of the society we live in and everything like that. But any reflections of yourself in this list? Anything you'd move around, and any deep philosophical
I'm pretty happy
awakenings?
I think it's a nice kind of bell curve we've got. So I think I think it's just a shame that like more of these scandals didn't lead to serious repercussions.
Yeah.
Like for me, Golfgate, in terms of the offence committed, was actually one of the most minor ones here, and yet it had more consequences in terms of like political like resignations than a lot of the other scandals, which were clearly worse.
Yeah.
Like for example, like we'll say the Hungarian funded infrastructure. Like nothing's happened with that, even though clearly a lot of money is being misspent. But it's just a bit of a shame. And like Mark Rutte too, like that affected a lot of people, a lot of vulnerable, marginalized communities, and ultimately it kind of just felt like Mark Rutte just got to press the reset button.
Yeah.
And it just kind of carried on as normal. And look, ultimately he got voted in by the electorate. That's that's valid, but still it just feels a little bit disheartening when that happens. So I think scandals, some of them are fun, some are less fun. You just kind of hope that justice is served, but that isn't always the case, because we don't live in a fair society.
And in principle we do, and I think there is many of these have been attempted to be addressed in ways which are much more rigid than you would see in other countries. Like I think a lot of these going to trial, a lot of these having some form of light slap on the wrist. Sure, it could have been harsher, but there's progress being made. And like that's almost like the Predatorgate one, where it's just like on all accounts acquittal, like a year after the thing blew up. That's what is really depressing about some of these, where you really see that some of these are handled in ways which kind of respect the rule of process, the rule of law.
Yeah.
Others don't. And I think that's kind of why the more juicy ones at the top deal with the people at the top, because it shows that nobody's above the rule of law. Like I think a lot of people make mistakes, but it takes a certain fool to make a mistake, knowingly, that results in a scandal, and it makes a fool of us if we don't properly address it.
That's good. Yeah. I think the role of the media, so important in bringing a lot of these scandals to light. Like I mentioned
and that's why you should donate to no sorry.
But seriously, like revealing the whole Fillon affair, and like different publications around Europe, like a lot of journalists who are being underpaid, and journalists who've been killed in Europe, like Jan Kuciak, Daphne Caruana, these people who are digging into corruption in politicians. Ones we could have mentioned here, but maybe they were a bit more serious. But then also we have to be careful, because the media can also take non-stories like Sanna Marin having a party and turning it into something that it isn't. But I think as a general rule, it's so important to have independent media that can cast politicians in an unflattering light and show the public what's going on in a relatively objective way, so that we can kind of decide for ourselves like what punishment is appropriate.
And I think it's also nice that we live in a society where we're not afraid to go on camera, post this on YouTube, and have our thoughts on these things. Some other places where you could kind of have a similar kind of conversation and be scared for your life.
You could get a knock on the door tomorrow,
I'm going to be scared at night now. But no, yeah. So I think it was an interesting exploration, because it started as more of a fun idea, but the more I was looking into these, I was like, I see a trend going on here, and it's kind of reinforced in me a bit of the importance of like anti-corruption and stuff like that, because it seems such a foreign concept to people like you and I, or at least I can speak for myself, saying I think I've been privileged enough to live in a society, or been grown up in a society where corruption isn't something I think about on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Rob Ford was great, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. But he wasn't corrupt. That was the thing.
No, he was just fun. Anyway, there was a Cork politician who hired an assassin as well. But it's fine. We can discuss these things after the podcast.
Exactly. And if you want to see us discuss other topics, or if you want to drop your own favorite political scandals in the comments below,
yes,
please do so. We'll review those.
The nicher the better. Like the local scandals that you don't hear about. Yeah.
The Puffin thing. Like, come on.
Yeah.
We need stuff like that in our lives.
We do.
Anyways, I think this about wraps it up. I'm hungry. I need to go eat. I'm tired.
Yeah. Excellent idea. I'm hungry in the sense that I'm paying for a treetop canopy with €250,000 of taxpayer money.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, it's been a pleasure, then. Until next time.
Till next time.
To the viewers.
Slán.